Hello everyone, my name is Tomoyuki Takabatake from Waseda University, Japan. Our presentation title is Developing Agent-Based Tsunami Evacuation Model for Pedestrian and Car Evacuees. Let me start with the introduction. Tsunamis are one of the most destructive types of natural hazards. In order to save more lives from a tsunami, it is very important to construct an appropriate evacuation strategy. Generally speaking, the usage of cars for evacuation purposes during a tsunami event is not recommended. This figure shows traffic jams actually observed during the 2011 Tohoku tsunami. As you can see, the usage of cars for evacuation during a tsunami event will lead to severe traffic jams and will hinder smooth evacuation. However, evacuation by vehicle could be helpful for someone, especially for someone who cannot walk fast, such as disabled, elderly, or infants. In fact, after the 2011 Tohoku tsunami, car uses for evacuation has started to be partially accepted in Japan. It is thus important now for residents and city planners to develop an effective evacuation plan by considering the uses of vehicles. Essentially, it is important to know beforehand how many percentages of evacuees are allowed to use car for evacuation. In order to know such information, evacuation simulation modeling, which can simulate human evacuation behavior, is a helpful tool. However, few simulation models can accurately reproduce the evacuation behavior of both pedestrians and vehicles, as well as tsunami inundation process. We, Waseda University, has also been developing an agent-based tsunami evacuation simulation model. So here is the example of our previous evacuation simulation results. Each dot represents each evacuee. If evacuees do not start evacuation or cannot reach an evacuation place before tsunami comes, they become casualties. However, our previous model doesn't consider the effects of car evacuation behavior in detail. Thus, in the present study, we developed an agent-based tsunami evacuation model that can consider both tsunami wave hydrodynamics and the behavior of both pedestrian and car evacuees. The developed model was first validated by reproducing the traffic jams actually observed during the 2011 Tohoku tsunami. Then, the developed model was applied to another coastal city in Japan. We investigated how the change in car usage ratio will influence the mortality rate of the future tsunami. So, let me explain about our agent-based tsunami evacuation simulation model. First, modeling pedestrian evacuees. Pedestrian evacuees are assumed to go to the closest evacuation place via the shortest route, as they should know the area very well. The moving speed of pedestrian was defined by considering both age and cloud density, as shown in this figure. So, when there are many evacuees on a road, the moving speed of pedestrian was defined to be decreased. Also, the presence of vehicles was defined to influence the moving speed of pedestrian evacuees. So next, modeling car evacuees. In the previous tsunami events, it has been reported that evacuees who use a motorbike or car were more likely to choose the main wider road instead of the shortest route along minor roads. We express this tendency, the tendency of car evacuees to choose main wider roads, by considering three different parameters. The normal approach used to calculate the shortest route uses the length of each road. However, the approach we took here uses cost instead of the original length of each road, and the cost is calculated by considering the reduction factor. And this reduction factor is defined to be calculated by considering the minimum preferred width, and level of preference, three different parameters. So essentially, in the model, if the level of preference is set to be low, car evacuees are defined to use wider roads more frequently. The moving speed of car evacuee, was defined by considering the road width and the interaction between cell and vehicle in front. Essentially, we use the intelligent driver model, which is widely used in the field of transportation. The evacuation model is coupled with tsunami propagation and inundation simulation model. The tsunami simulation model used in the present study is based on nonlinear shallow water equations. By using the simulated depth velocity product, it is possible to estimate the number of casualties resulting from a tsunami. The simulated inundation area is also used to influence the evacuation behavior of evacuees. More specifically, in the model, when the road which an evacuee would take is inundated, the evacuee is assumed to ignore it and take a route leading to higher ground. So, in order to validate the developed model, we apply the model to Takabatake City, Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. This city was hit by the 2011 Tohoku tsunami, and this city is known to be the area where heavy traffic congestion occurred along the main roads. In fact, many cars were caught by flooding, and more than 180 people perished in this Takabatake city. By using the model, we tried to reproduce tsunami inundation and evacuation process. This figure shows the location of Takabatake city and the simulated water surface elevation 5 minutes after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake. Let me show you the result of evacuation simulation. In the simulations, we changed the three parameters related to route choice of evacuees: minimum preferred width, level of preference to take wider roads. We changed these three parameters and tried to reproduce the traffic jams actually observed during the 2011 Tohoku tsunami very well. This shows one example. In the video, the red colors show the cars which stop moving. As you can see, many cars stop along the main road. This means that severe congestion occurs along the main roads. So the simulated traffic jams were compared with traffic jams actually observed during the 2011 Tohoku tsunami. In the present study, we use the testimonies from the survivors in order to get the location of traffic jams. So let me show you some examples. Survivor A reported that I saw the congestion at the intersection relatively soon after the earthquake. The tsunami arrived at this area. Our simulation result reproduced the traffic jam at the same intersection 10 minutes after the earthquake. Survivor B reported that I tried to go to higher ground. However, I got stuck in traffic jam and caught by the tsunami. Our simulation model successfully reproduced the traffic jam here and cars caught by the tsunami. Survivor C reported that while evacuating on the road, I got stuck in traffic jam and caught by the tsunami. Again, our simulation model successfully reproduced the traffic jam here and the cars caught by the tsunami here. Of course, the testimony from survivors may not be perfectly trustful, and we acknowledge there is room for improvement in the model. However, overall, we think the location of severe congestion were relatively well reproduced by the developed model. Then, the model was applied to another coastal city in Japan. The city is Singu City. It is predicted that this city would suffer from a tsunami within 30 minutes after the earthquake for the case of future Nankai-to-Nankai earthquake and tsunami. And in the city, more than 35% of residents are over 65 years old. We investigated how the changes in car usage ratio would influence the changes in mortality rate. In the simulations, we assumed that all evacuees will start evacuation 5 minutes after the earthquake. This shows the location of single city and simulated water surface elevation 5 minutes after the earthquake for the case of future Nankai-to-Nankai earthquake. So, this is the result. Horizontal axis shows car usage ratio. Vertical axis shows mortality rate. In the present study, in addition to the car usage ratio, we also change the preference level to take wider roads. As I said, in the present study, lower preference level means that car evacuees are more likely to choose wider roads. What we can say from the result is, first, as expected, the car usage ratio significantly influenced the mortality rate. Second is, in the study area, where most of the car evacuees take wider roads, it will be possible to allow 25% of evacuees to use vehicle for evacuation. In fact, when preference level is 0.2 or 0.4, 25% car usage ratio shows minimum mortality rate in the present study area. So let me conclude. In the present study, we developed an agent-based tsunami evacuation simulation model that can consider the behavior of pedestrian and car evacuees and tsunami inundation process. The developed model was first validated and then applied to the coastal city in Japan. We investigated the effects of the changes in car usage ratio on mortality rate. As a result, the model was shown to be useful for city planners and disaster risk managers to understand the proportion of citizens that should be allowed to use car for tsunami evacuation. We also believe that the model can be used to identify the roads that are more likely to experience car congestions. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation.